Welcome to a Drop Tent Media production.
Welcome to the Lone Stakers Podcast. Hi, I'm Albert Davis, and I'm a solo staker on the Ethereum blockchain.
And I'm Tommy Harold, and I'm a solo staker.
Both Tommy and I are crypto enthusiasts, navigating the world of Ethereum solo staking. We're not experts, but we're on a journey to learn more. So join us as we explore, learn, and stake our claim in the Ethereum network.
Okay, so great to see you again, Albert. It's always a pleasure talking with you about everything crypto and everything staking. One of the things that we wanted to dig deeply into in this conversation was the different setups that you can have, the different ways that you can become a staker, the different ways that you can participate in staking on the Ethereum blockchain and in the Ethereum universe, and talk about what our setups are, because I think it's quite interesting that you and I actually met as a result of the similarities of the staking setup that we have, and so let's kind of dig into the different options that you have that are available to anybody that wants to become a staker.
Oh, sure. Thanks, Tommy. Great to see you as always. Yeah, well, our show, we call ourselves Lone Stakers, and that's LONE, and because we are solo stakers, and one of the things that we wanted to help people understand is that some of the distinctions of the different types of staking that people can do on Ethereum. So thanks. I think this will be an interesting discussion. When I was on my way over to the studio, I was actually thinking a little slightly deeper question. And I don't know if you want me to delve into this, but it's sort of like, why do we stake in the first place? And really, why do we have to go through this whole exercise of the blockchain? What is the whole purpose? Why are we even doing this in the first place? So maybe we can touch on that as we kind of go through this.
Yeah, no, sure, absolutely. I mean, I think it's a crucial part of the decision making that if you're interested in staking Ethereum, if you've got to the point where you're invested in crypto, about crypto, you want to start staking, you've got to start from where. You've got to start from what brought you there and what your motivations are for doing it. And like personally, having understood and the crypto universe and being introduced to the idea of staking, it felt to me like it was almost a fear of missing out opportunity, in that it had been described to me what proof of stake was, what staking was, at the outset of the mainnet back in December 2020, and it felt like I was being given an opportunity to get in at the beginning of something. And so having the knowledge and then being provided the access through essentially through a friendship with somebody who was setting up a company that was going to create the access to solo staking, that was the doorway and the opportunity that I needed to come online. And it didn't take a whole lot of decision making to decide to do it. I have to say personally that the requirement to lock up your 32 Ethereum in a node was actually it was an enticement for me. It was something that it was almost preferable that I was going to put my 32 ETH into a node, and then it was just like set and forget. You can't quite walk away from it, but you don't have that day-to-day decision making of, is it the right time to buy? Is it the right time to sell? And so, that's where I came from. It's great to be a member of the community. I'm not a tech guy, and so I can't be writing on the Discord channel about bugs that I'm finding on the Ethereum blockchain or in the code. So like a way of becoming an active participant in the Ethereum community through solo staking was it was an opportunity that I didn't want to pass up. And through my friendship with JDeep, who's the CEO of Launch Nodes, which is the service that I use, and it's the service that you use. Like I'm here now today, a proud owner of a validator node that has I'm looking at the date. It's past its 2-year birthday. So, I mean, how about you, Albert? Like, maybe you can tell us what you brought up, what brought you to this place and to the table and to this podcast ultimately.
Sure. Well, Tommy, it's what you've just said triggered some thoughts for me about when I became interested in staking. Again, it was in March of 2021, I think, or 2022. Well, anyway, it's around 2 years ago. We'll have to get those dates straight. We should have our validator birthdays. We should know what those are.
I actually know what my validator birthday is. It's an easy date to remember. It's Valentine's Day 2021. That's when I fell in love with the blockchain.
Okay, so I must be March something 2021. So you hopped on in a bit sooner than I. But when I got interested in this, I didn't know of any other way to stake other than to go through the technical process of setting up a node. And I'm not even sure 2 years ago if there was as many alternatives as there are now for different types of staking. So, and I told this before, but I tried to do it myself and it was just too complicated. And I didn't feel confident enough to do it myself. And then I went and I searched online, and that's how I met up with the Launch Nodes team, because basically they were like a tech support that would get you through the process. So I didn't know any other way. And unfortunately, fortunately for me at that time, I had the 32 ETH. I saw it as a big gamble. I didn't see it like you. Keep in mind, I didn't have that personal relationship with someone that's running the company. I was just a person that wanted to do this. And I took, for me, probably my biggest risk was like, can I trust these guys on the other end of the phone? Because I don't know them. I just took that risk, and I'm glad I did, and it has worked out beautifully. So yeah, that was my first step.
At that time, when you were doing that research, how many different options would you say that there were for you to choose from?
I don't think there were many. I remember watching the video on Launch Node's website probably about 15 times. I was like, well, how does this work? What are they doing? What are they saying? Because I didn't find other ways of staking. That
because now there's a plethora, right? Now there are so many different ways of doing it. There are so many different companies that you can do it with, and they have their advantages and their drawbacks. And maybe we can go into those a little bit. And kind of, I think the way that we do it is the best way of doing it. It's you have to be in the right situation to be able to do it the way that we do it. But yeah, we can maybe go through some of the different options, what the differences are, and kind of describe why. I can certainly describe why it is that I like the way that we do it, the way that we've got it set up. So kind of, can you help describe what some of those differences are?
Yeah, I thought about this in three big buckets. The first bucket being solo staking, which is what we do, which means we are actually running a node on the Ethereum blockchain. We had to stake 32 ETH. We have our own wallet, which represents the validator account. And we are responsible also for keeping that validator going. And whether it's good or bad, if we go offline and we're down for a week, which did happen to me once, then we kind of lose out. It's us, and we are running the validators ourselves. And I even think sometimes I call myself a validator. It's like, yeah, we're proud validators for running these nodes. So that's solo stake, and that's what we consider solo staking to be. The second, is kind of the middle ground, is what I think could be called DeFi staking. And there's a couple companies out there or protocols out there that you can interact with different amounts of Ethereum. So that's one of the use cases for these other forms of staking, because you don't have to have 32 ETH. That's a high bar financially for a lot of people. So if you have a 1 ETH or even a fraction of an ETH, you can connect a wallet and go through a smart contract, basically, that will stake your ETH and give you a token in return, and that token increases in value roughly commensurate with the rewards of staking. And we can talk in more detail about that second bucket. And then the third bucket is basically staking on an exchange. So if you have an account on an exchange and you can buy and sell crypto on that account, some, not all, will offer the staking of Ethereum as an option, and it's actually a very simple process. And again, you do not have to have 32 ETH. You can have 1 ETH or a half an ETH or a quarter of an ETH, and you can stake it, and you will get a return. So those are the three ways that I see the staking world kind of shaking out at this point.
Yeah. And so, like, you mentioned the solo staking and then the DeFi staking, and like in my brain, I think of the DeFi staking as pool staking. And you've got the exchange staking. And so, like, to be honest, after I set up my solo staking node, I had a couple ETH that were just kind of like spare change rattling around in my back pocket, and like, what am I going to do with these? And I put them on, I staked them using Kraken. And so I think personally that's a perfect example of both the advantages of that, but also the disadvantages of that. Because as you mentioned, right, I didn't have to have 32 at that point. I had just like something left over, and like, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to very quickly, like within a matter of minutes, use just like my username and password on Kraken. I can get in there and I can start staking it. Now that was back in, well, I don't know, March or April, a couple months after I'd set up my solo staking node. And like, maybe some of the people that are listening to this know, and maybe some of the people that are listening to this don't know, but Kraken had a negotiation with the Securities and Exchange Commission in the US, and their staking service in the US was abruptly halted. And so I was the not beneficiary, but my ETH that were staked through their service was stuck there, and I couldn't do anything with it until after the Shanghai upgrade. So, you hand your ETH over to the exchange, and it's no longer yours. I mean, they tell you it's yours because they show you a balance on your screen when you log into their website, but you've handed that ETH over to somebody else and they're staking it on your behalf. So, we all hear the stories of the exchanges like every so often one of them comes down, and if you're the unlucky person that had your ETH staked on that one, well then yeah, there it goes. So that you've got the benefit, you've got a username and password, and if you forget your password, you probably can like hit a forget your password button and get back in again. But you're handing the ETH over, and somebody else is staking it for you.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and it's interesting that you got unwittingly your exchange had a compliance kind of an issue and or a regulatory issue, and it kind of affected your staking experience. And also, yeah, I wonder about people. I don't even know this. It'd be interesting to research it. But for example, the exchange that collapsed months ago, FTX, if there were people that were staking on FTX, because they may, I don't know if I never used FTX.
Yeah, I hadn't either. And
yeah.
so I don't know the answer to that question, but sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a possibility. And so that's one of the quote unquote risks of staking through an exchange, is that you are subject to the exchange. I mean, I think the way to go, is to not be on an exchange. I don't keep much of any kind of crypto on an exchange, but you need the exchanges, because if you want to turn cash into crypto, you need an exchange. And if you want to exit, and let's say there's an expense that comes up, I mean, eventually we should be able to use crypto to transact, but right now the world is not quite there. It's really not there, to be honest. So if I want to buy a new motorcycle or something, I'd have to use an exchange to get whatever crypto I have back into cash. So the exchanges are necessary, but they're really for me, it's like for going in and out of between cash and crypto. At this point, that's why that's what I do with the exchange. And I feel a little bit bad for the exchange, because it's like I buy the crypto and then I move it off the exchange, but maybe they probably just make their money on the transaction. So maybe they don't.
I wouldn't feel bad about that. I wouldn't feel bad about that, Albert. They're taking their cut. Don't you worry about that.
They're getting their cut. The pool staking is, do you want to move and talk a little bit about pool staking?
Yeah. Let's move on to the pool staking.
That's a nice concept. Again, I think it all gets to this. A lot of people at current market prices don't have the 32 ETH. It's really getting up there, and they want to stake, and they want to support Ethereum blockchain, and so so people came up with this concept of a pool, and a pool is basically multiple people get together, and when their ETH adds up to 32, then the pool itself, or the pool operator, will set up a node, and that's kind of how it works, and so that's pool staking. I mean, but they're done. The reason I call them DeFi also is because it's not done through a traditional exchange. It feels much more like interacting with a smart contract. You need the wallet that has its own seed phrase, and you connect your wallet to those exchanges. I guess we can mention Lido is one that's very popular. It's a little bit advanced, quite frankly, for someone that is new to the space. I wouldn't recommend doing that immediately, but it is something it's an option. And it's a good, and okay, so I guess with a DeFi staking, or in something like Lido, you're not quite as subject to the exchange type of risk that you mentioned, where regulatory issues or just the finances of the exchange can impact whatever you staked over there.
Yeah, and I think part of that is the kind of the custodial, non-custodial dichotomy between the two different ways of doing the staking, right? And when we talk about custodial, we're talking about who owns, who control, not who owns, who has control of the ETH and the nodes when they're staked on a node on the beacon chain. And so kind of custodial staking means you're handing custody of your ETH to somebody else, and non-custodial means you still have it, right? You still have control of your own ETH. And these pools, again, like this reaches the end of my tech knowledge, but it's a way of doing it non-custodial, and so you still have kind of the withdrawal passwords to your ETH that are staked on the node, and so it's much less vulnerable to a third party going down, messing up, whatever it might be. But interestingly, I was looking into like Rocket Pool and Lido and some of these other ones, and like from my perspective, and again, this is like me as the lay person that's not like massively geeky over the crypto universe and staking, but like I saw the the tokens that you get in return for the ETH that you've put on your node. I can't remember what the name for those are. Well, the tokens, the derivative tokens, and it struck me that the purpose of those tokens was to create liquidity for that period of time when staking meant locking up your Ethereum with no known date in the future for being able to unstake it, which is what the situation was. Don't forget, like when you and I were setting up our node, it was maybe 12 months away, maybe 18 months away, maybe 2 years away that you were ever going to get access to your Ethereum again. Like maybe never you were going to get access to it. It was a complete unknown. And the way that I see those, like the Lidos and the Rocket Pools, is those coins that you get back that you can then do your kind of DeFi financing with. They were providing liquidity when all of the ETH was locked up, and now there's more liquidity on the market. I still understand that you can use those tokens for other DeFi purposes, but it's not that they're not performing the same place in the market that they were before the Shanghai upgrade, as far as I can tell. And like I could be completely wrong on that. But I think you have used some of these like DeFi services, right? Is one of them Curve, and one of them something I can't remember the names of them. Like, can you? Because that's one of the great benefits, right, of using Lido or using Rocket Pool, is that it gives you the pathway and the opportunity to go into that DeFi world of the staking.
Okay, well, that's a bit of a dive. By the way, the again, and we're neither of us are experts, but I have dabbled into these things. The token that you get with Lido is called ST ETH, and the ST presumably stands for staked ETH. So you send your ETH to Lido, and in exchange they give you something called ST ETH, which is a token, and it's it's pegged to ETH, and then it increases. And I'm not sure if it increases in value or if they give you extra tokens. But the point is that they increase in value roughly in line with the return at kind of an average validator would receive. Now, so you can then, and this is where the DeFi gets really, intriguing, I guess is the word. Mm-hmm. Because yes, you can take first of all, you could do it with ETH. You can go to Curve Finance and the other one is Yearn, Yearn. I dabbled with both of those like about a year and a half ago. I think Curve was maybe a little better. They're a little, again, you got to go kind of tiptoeing into these things because it is a slightly different world. First of all, you have to have the wallet, like and again, there's these layers and layers, and we don't want to get too confusing, but you need a wallet that typically people start with MetaMask, and you have to set that up and get kind of comfortable using MetaMask. But when you go to these websites, you go to, say, Curve with your MetaMask wallet, and you connect your wallet through their website. And then they have these different places that you can, again, provide liquidity for people. Yeah, because you're providing liquidity to a market. And so you can get extra interest yield on your STETH token if you want to.
So let me stop you there,
yes.
because actually that makes me realize that what I was saying earlier is like not exactly correct, in the sense of like I not being able to see the utility of the staked ETH coin, because what it allows you to do is have your ETH in two places at the same time. You have it on the blockchain in the node, earning that way, but then you get your staked ETH coin in return, and you're using that same like mirror image coin, and you're using it somewhere else. So you're earning in two places from your one Ethereum coin.
Yes, but there's a big caveat there, and that is you get charged significant transaction fees for both entering and exiting those Curve Finance or Yearn Finance. And so for that to really be profitable, you have to kind of be in for the long term, because if you can't, if you go in today and come out a week or a month later, well, you didn't give your funds enough chance to accrue any interest, and the fees can be expensive. So this is something that you have to keep in mind, that there are transaction fees. Now, as validators, we have to be like, see, we're kind of on the good side of that equation, because as validators, those fees are basically fees that get out and pay validators to keep the chain going. But if you're
in addition to those fees that you're paying that kind of change the equation, the pool services, the Lidos, the Rocket Pools, the other ones, they're all taking some of the rewards themselves, right? You're sharing the rewards between me, the person who's coming up with the ETH, and the pool service provider.
Yeah, they call that a node operator fee, and it's they're taking out a fee. The other thing is, there's this execution income and consensus income that are the two primary ways that a node gets rewarded. And the consensus income is a very steady kind of drip thing, and it's running around probably just shy of 4%, maybe 3.5% right now, which is nice, but it's not super exciting. But the execution income can sometimes be surprisingly good, and it really makes a big difference. We sometimes think of it as like winning the lottery if you get a very large execution income, and those come very infrequently to the validator. Like every 6 to 8 weeks, your node will be chosen. It's a random selection process by all this code that runs, and you get randomly selected, but then you can have a nice execution income there. And if you're in a pool, that I haven't quite found the article that describes how the execution income gets distributed to the people in the pool. But I have a funny feeling it's they don't get quite. They certainly don't get all of it. That's for sure.
Right. And so actually, I think what you've done there quite smoothly is that you've segued from the pool staking into the solo staking, right? Which is what you and I do, whereby we are the people that run our nodes, and so we've referenced launch nodes up in this episode, and what they provide to us is kind of like the architecture and the software and the all of that tech stuff that I personally can't do, but then they provide that, and with that I can run my own node. And so what that means is, as you're saying, is we're not going through any other kind of service. We're not going to, we don't like have log-on credentials with a service or anything like that. We just have our validator node connected directly to the beacon chain, and we've got to monitor it. And you get the good with that, and you get the bad with that. And like, in my opinion, the good outweighs the bad. But let's dig a little bit into what the pluses and the minuses are there. And like the obvious pluses is, as you describe, you get every single piece of your reward, right? You get the consensus reward, and you get the execution layer reward. And so like the consensus reward, as you're saying, it's that drip, drip, drip. Every, I don't know, whatever it is, every 4 minutes, you're getting just a little piece, a little piece, a little piece, and it accumulates on the node, right? It builds up. If you go check your node address on the public ledger, you can see it is constantly accruing that additional. And so what I like to think is, you referenced the lottery, right? The execution layer, that big reward that you can get every so often when your validator node is chosen to propose that block. You can get like a big one. You can win, like, I think somebody got 10 ETH one point for their execution layer income. And so the way I like to think of it, you mentioned it as a lottery, but instead of paying to enter the lottery, the consensus income, that it's paying us to enter the lottery. And so we're not suckers that are like throwing our money in a black hole, like entering the lottery with this and putting it, like flushing our money down the toilet. We're being paid to enter the lottery. We're like, as you said, we're on the right side of this, and we get all of the rewards for the consensus layer income and all of the rewards on the execution layer income, which the other services, you're definitely not getting it. You're sharing it with the people, the provider that you're using.
Yeah. Well, that gave me two ideas. I'll probably forget one of them before I finish talking about it, but it would be kind of interesting. Like people buy lottery tickets all over the world because, who doesn't want to take a chance and, get a big reward? But if somebody could create almost like that same $10 a week that somebody might buy a lottery ticket, they have like an auto deposit into a staking pool, and it just sort of automatically, and maybe it gives them something back that would feel good to them. But it'll be a much better, at the end of the year, they'd have something significant. And after 5 years, they really have something, and still with this chance of getting sort of like the feeling of winning. I mean, it doesn't even have to be like $10 million, but, just the idea that, our validator got selected and we got this extra reward is kind of nice. The other thing that I do I want to research it, how the pools work. Like if, let's say, a Lido pool that you're participating in, and I do believe when you join Lido, you choose, there's like another choice, like you choose which pool operator to actually go in with. So let's just say one of those pool operators got a 10 ETH reward, which would be highly, highly unusual. And by the way, not financial advice, not life advice, no kind of advice here. We're just two guys, talking away here. But I really would like to know the specifics of how those rewards get divvied up by the participants of the pool. Right now, I don't know. That's something I want to research and then, be able to talk about a little bit more. Because, in fairness, maybe they are, and I don't want to misstate that to anybody.
Sure. Yeah. No, I also don't have that information. But that's something that we can come back to in a future episode.
So one other thing. Go ahead.
No. You go ahead.
Oh, we're going to kill each other with politeness here. I just wanted to make the point that we as node operators, we incur some expense. We have to run our computers. We have to pay for electricity. We have a software license that we have to pay to run our nodes. I guess in both of our cases, and I hope you don't mind saying, our nodes are running on Amazon Web Services. That is a very, very modest expense, and it's a great way to go, by the way, with one caveat there. But we bear those expenses as part of offset the income, but the expense is pretty reasonable as far as I'm concerned. Amazon itself, I have heard or read the argument that there is a slight decentralization risk, because if everyone in the world is running their validator nodes on Amazon and something happens to Amazon, then that's an interesting thought. And I don't know, again, statistically, that would be another interesting thing to find out, like how many nodes, where are these nodes running? How many are, where are the nodes running? I mean, I think Amazon probably has so much redundancy in its systems that it may be a minuscule risk, but, these are, it's always good to keep, the mind open to how some of these things could play into, I mean, Amazon is a great, wonderful, successful company. Maybe something could happen and it would, change those equations, and who knows? But then you would have time to also migrate to another service. I mean, it would nothing like that would happen, immediately. So that's something that keeps me up at night.
You mentioned that we were going to kill each other with politeness, and I think we might just do that. But we were actually going in the same place, right? You were starting to talk about the costs and the burdens that we carry, right, as solo stakers, because we don't have, one of the things we don't have is that warm, toasty, furry security blanket of knowing that you're just a username and a password away from getting your ETH back again, because there is a bit more, because you're connected more directly to the beacon chain, there's a bit more of a tech lift. And so you were talking about the financial part of it and the licensing and the being part of the subscribing to AWS. But like where I want to go is the time and the monitoring and the tech burden and also the worrying, right? Because I didn't realize this when I first signed the contract and my beacon chain went live. I did not realize that it was going to be on me to make sure that my node was running happily, safely, constantly. And it has proved in the last couple of years that it hasn't always. There has been, 24, 48-hour periods during which the node has either turned off and isn't accruing any income, or is actually euphemistically accruing negative income. And I didn't realize that was going to be on me to be like the constant monitor. And so my set and forget theory, where I was going to just walk away from it and not think about it anymore, that's actually not been how I manage my node, right? I go into either Beacon Chain or Etherscan every couple of days to make sure that I'm still active, I'm still in the green, and I'm not in the red. And sometimes you have that moment of, oh, it's not accruing income, it's losing money. Help me. Because I don't have that technical knowledge to do that myself. And so I am reliant on launch nodes to provide that support, and they have been good. But like I've raised it before, and I've said, like, what happens if you guys like win the normal lottery or win some other lottery and decide that you're not interested in running this business anymore? And like the answer is that there's so many tech people out there in the world that you can go to Upwork, you can go to one of these services, and somebody's going to get you up and running again, or keep you maintained. But like that, for me, like I don't mind the small financial cost of keeping the node running. Like the math, it does itself, right? We earn more than we spend keeping the node running, and we've always got that lottery ticket. And you're always hoping that the baseline value of ETH is just going to increase, right? So the math works for me. For me, it's the worry, it's the maintenance, it's the tech that I don't have.
Yeah, there's definitely. I don't know when I first set up my node if I was realized the same thing as you just mentioned, that I'd actually have to kind of work at this thing. I mean, I don't mind it because as a person that finds tech kind of fascinating, like solving puzzles and such, that I kind of wanted, that's one reason I wanted to be a staker, was to understand all this technology better. And for me, I have to be working with it to understand it. I mean, to read an article about it is so much different than being a staker and knowing, like that reality of like, oh, this is what you have to do. This is what you have to do. But on the other hand, I didn't realize the that work part, which is most of the time the work is just the upgrade process. But there's been, gosh knows, probably over the 2-year period, there's probably been about 20 of those maybe or so, where you've had to go into Amazon Web Services and navigate around and find the certain checkbox and drop the little drop down and put in a new version number, which is basically what we have to do. But yeah, that is work. And I mean, I don't know how you get notified about that. I get an email that pops up, but email, even with spam, you could miss an email too. So yeah, it is a not 100%, certainly not 100% set it and forget it. By the way, I'm working. I am actually. Go ahead.
No, what I was going to say was, you're talking about notifications and receiving those emails, and it made me think about the Beacon Chain app that's out there that you can get, and I think you use it, but I don't use it, and I don't use it because I have a reason not to. I'm just I'm lazy. I haven't set it up yet. But that, maybe you can tell us that app actually will send notifications to your phone that alert you to what different weird, great, bad things that are happening to your node. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's supposed to. I don't know if I set that up recently, so I haven't had enough time to see exactly if it's working or functioning. But the idea would be, if you're one signal that something might not be great with your node is what's called a missed attestation. So every once in a while, I get an email. I don't even know who's generating these emails, to tell you, to be quite honest with you. But an email will pop up and it says your validator missed an attestation.
I think it's ChatGPT that's sending you those emails.
No. That's this is before ChatGPT came out. That's a good one. But but that's an indicator. But I had a situation where I was getting those messages, and then it turned out that was sort of normal to get those messages. Like every now and then, a validator just misses one of those attestations, and that's not necessarily means anything. And so I got very complacent about not paying attention to those messages. And then I was getting them with a little more frequency, and I ignored them. And that's when it turned out I was offline, and I should have been doing something about it. And I lost a few days, in the process, till I woke up to like, oh, I better pay attention to this. So we would like to get if anything went wrong with your node, you'd like to get notified right away. And that is what I'm hoping that the notifications from the apps take care of. That's a whole nother big area, is like the tooling around these things. I mean, again, after going through this whole updating process, which is like a 14-step procedure, which is all it's literally doing is changing one value in one field in your Amazon Web Services, I thought, like, dang, there must be an easier way. Like, can't we just pop up a dialog box and I put in the new number and I press OK and that's it? And I think the tooling will come around to that point. But it's not there yet, and which is why it's a little bit that's just where kind of things are. I actually worked. I'm looking into this but I don't think we'll talk about it now. But there are some ways to automate processes inside of Amazon, and I have used ChatGPT to help me with the coding on that. And I've gotten close, but I haven't gotten there. And now you have to realize I am executing some code from a command line that goes to Amazon Web Services and changes a value. And of course, it could wreck my validator if I'm not careful. I mean, that's probably a little bit extreme, but I figure, you know what? Well, now we realize if the validator goes down, we don't really get slashed. We lose a day or two of income, and it usually it's not that hard to get it going back again. And we can always rely on our tech support to help us get back up and running. I did look into slashing versus not getting slashed. Like for us to really get a big penalty, our whole software that runs our node would have to have malicious code in it, and our code is checked and double checked and triple checked. So we're not really at much of a risk for getting slashed. It's not like you and I are going to try to like cheat on the Ethereum network. We're just like praying we keep our node up and running. We're not like, and there's nothing we can do with the code. Also, as like literally someone would have to write malicious code that's trying to do something against the rules of the protocol in order to get those types of penalties. So
and I think that's like a whole nother conversation in terms of like the risks and the ecosystem, and I don't even know what the variation is in terms of the risk of slashing between the different setups, right? I don't know if it's a greater, a lesser, the same if you're on an exchange, if you're going through the pool services, or if you're a solo staker. I just don't know what those differences are. But Albert, one thing that I wanted to ask you is we've had a great conversation today, right? And we kind of walked through the different options of how you can stake your ETH and how you can be a participant in staking. With all of these different options that we've discussed, and with the journey that you've been on, and the knowledge and the experience that you've accrued over that period of time, would you have changed anything? Would you still go back to March 2021? I think we decided it was. Would you still go back there and become a solo staker, or would you take a different route?
No, I would do it exactly how I've done it. I don't know if there's much I could do any differently than what I've done. Yeah, I mean, no, I'm
But
happy with.
you wouldn't go for an exchange. You wouldn't go to one of the pools. You would still be a solo staker.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, because for those reasons, like the returns are probably the same or better. And the knowledge gained would be, I wouldn't have gained the inside knowledge to just understand what little bit I understand. I mean, if you're just staking on an exchange, it's just like you click the button and chose a thing, and you're getting some return, but you're not going to really pay attention, understand. And yeah, I don't know how much time we have, but I will say this: the whole reason that there's a blockchain in the first place is an interesting discussion that I think is really worth having. Like, why do we have these? Why do we have these? It is, and it's not just to create tokens for people to get any interest on their tokens. There's a real reason why this technology came into existence, and I'm still very excited to, I'm like, we are part of a new system of passing value and money around that.
And so as a staker, you are a proud participant in that process, and that I feel the same way. I feel that as a solo staker, my participation in that is more direct. And I agree with you in terms of the knowledge that the small amount of knowledge, right, that I have built up in the last 2 years would not have happened if I had been staking through a pool or an exchange. Having that direct interaction, a little bit more hands-on, the daily and the weekly monitoring, and the necessity to have conversations with people, like, like, what just happened? What does that mean? Those interactions have taught me so much about Ethereum, the blockchain, and solo staking. So no, I feel exactly the same way as you. I would not have changed a thing. I'm happy that I'm a solo staker. I'm happy that I'm here talking to you about it, and no, I wouldn't have made any changes to the way that I got here. I'm a proud member of the solo staking community.
So, Tommy, I look at staking as a journey, a rather adventurous journey. We really don't know where it's going. It's totally new, uncharted territory. That's why we call ourselves the lone stakers. We're kind of on a frontier. We see a lot of promising things in the future, but we really don't know where it's going to go, where it's going to take us, where this is going. We really don't, and that's why it's a journey and an adventure.
Yeah, I mean, Albert, you said that so eloquently. I've got no words to add to that. So, like, please join us for the next episode, where we're going to delve deeper into this world, and we're going to explore new worlds and cross frontiers. So join us for that.
Perfect. See you next time.
Thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate you sharing our crypto journey. Please send us a message via thelonestakers@gmail.com, and make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and mash that bell button so you never miss an episode. The Lone Stakers Podcast. Everywhere you find podcasts.
This has been a Drop Tent Media Production.